Hi, this is Brendan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and I'm here with Adam Balderstone for another episode of Bedrock and Balderstone. And today we're talking about Farscape Season 1, Episodes 14 and 15, which are Jeremiah Crichton and Durka Returns. And I just want to say at the start of the podcast, we have had some technical issues. Hopefully we won't have any as the episode unfolds, but I just want to prepare people in case we run into any. If you notice something odd happen during the episode, it's because Skype has not been behaving, and we record these on Skype. So Adam, why don't you run us through these two episodes, then we'll talk about what we think about them.
That sounds like a good place to start. Yeah, so let's stick with the first episode. Jeremiah Crichton involves Crichton getting really frustrated at everything going on the ship, deciding he's going to go cruise around in the Farscape for a little bit to vent some frustration. But at that point, Moya is forced to starburst due to some complication with her pregnancy, and he just gets ditched in space. Then we have a jump ahead of 6 months or so, and he's found some planet that he's settled on and is getting enmeshed in the conflicts of some tribe that lives on the planet. And that's the basic setup. So Brendan, what did you think of this one?
So when it started, I didn't like the intro, and it was one of these episodes that won me over the course of the episode. It wasn't like it was kind of a throwaway episode in a lot of ways. It was sort of like I would say it felt like fairly standard filler fare in a lot of respects for a lot of these kinds of shows. But for some reason, by the end of the episode, I was like, I enjoyed it. It was fun. I liked the closing sort of concept of they had the prophecy and the reveal of what the prophecy really was. It was sort of neatly tied up with a bow and everything. It also got me thinking about how we talk a lot about how shows have changed, and it's kind of interesting. I think that Babylon 5 was really our first big show that we did, and then we worked through some other shows after that. And Babylon 5 is the show that got this whole idea of sort of the story arc started. And you kind of have story arc in Farscape, but it still has some of these filler episodes. And this episode basically reminded me why I feel like we've thrown the baby out with the bathwater with the filler episodes. How it can be kind of a good thing to just have an episode that allows you to rest from everything that's going on, and to get to give a sense of this just being a bigger world or bigger place that these characters are part of. Do you know what I mean? And again, I don't know, maybe this episode ties in with more stuff and I'm not realizing it, but it didn't feel like an essential episode to watch, but it was fun.
Yeah, just to get it out of the way, I'll let you know that this is actually one of the most hated episodes of the show. So, but yeah, there's things I definitely dislike about this episode, but I have to say, like you, I like it more as it goes along. It's like, I think a lot of what I don't like about this episode, I find the whole thing at the beginning with the people on the planet, those characters are all just really wooden and artificial, and nothing about them feels very Farscape. I just feel like I'm in, I don't know.
I felt like I agree with you. I felt like, to me, that part of the show felt more like Hercules and Xena, almost.
That's good analogy.
Like the vibe, not like, obviously, just the vibe of it had sort of more of a Hercules and Xena vibe, and it felt off for that reason. I also thought Crichton getting that frustrated and being that reckless was like, it's not super out of character, but it was more intense than I thought he normally would behave, and
coming at the very beginning of an episode, like, you kind of got to buy into it out of the blue. It's like, if it happened, I mean, obviously this episode couldn't have got away with having this happen halfway through because you wouldn't have the time, but it's having him at peak aggravation right as the episode opens does require a little bit of buy-in.
And the 6-month skip I thought was very weak because they introduced this woman and he's talking with her, and I was really confused throughout that conversation until it became clear, oh no, he's been here for a long time and he knows her. But I didn't know, like, for the first 2 or 3 minutes, I was like, wait a second, did he just meet this woman? I don't understand. Like, and he seems pretty unsurprised that there's other people on this planet. Like, that those assumptions turned out not to be true, but it was just all very jarring. And it wasn't until he started kind of not chilling, but until he started talking with, like, the chieftain and stuff like that, and I started getting more of a sense of what was actually going on, that I found myself enjoying it. I do understand why people don't like it. The wooden characters, for one, the fact that a lot of the culture on this planet doesn't feel all that well thought out. You know what I mean? Like, it feels it feels very reflexively created, if that makes sense. Like, they just kind of So I can see why people wouldn't like that stuff.
And it's I mean, usually when you get Farscape is very good at having side characters that are somehow intriguing or eccentric, or, you know, like the characters in the last episode we watched with the pirates and everything. They've all, even though you don't get a whole lot of them, they're kind of these intriguing characters that, you know. But it's like, no, I just was utterly uninterested in any of these people and any of their tribal drama, and just didn't work in any way. It just didn't. I don't know. It didn't have any of the alien vibe of Farscape to it. But yeah, once you get into Rigel showing up, and, you know, how Rigel is this figure, that is actually the part of the episode that works for me. It's I kind of like the way Rigel is this really sleazy, sneaky character who spent, you know, 100 years in prison, and it's just this ultimate survivor character. But there's still this remnant of wanting to be this noble ruler, you know. And it's like it's like these two opposing sides of him that both kind of make sense together. It's nice when you kind of get to see that other side come out.
No, and that I liked. I also liked the backstory that they developed for the planet. Like, the culture was kind of, it sort of felt like vaguely like they're taking a bit of this culture, a bit of that culture, and also it was, I don't know, like the salutation they gave, I thought was a very, we've talked about how the names have generally been good on this program, but that was not a good name, I thought. Not a good invented phraseology.
I don't remember the salutation, actually.
I don't remember it specifically either, but I remember not liking it every time they used it.
The fact that it hasn't stuck in my head, I guess, says something about it.
It felt like, give me something vaguely Hawaiian, would you? You know, it was just like that kind of thing. You know, like, it just didn't work. And I also think that like you said, the stuff with Rigel, like the whole thing where he's like, you know, he really enjoys being a sovereign. Like, he falls into that role. You know, he's done that enough that I can sort of see that as a pattern in his character, and it works. I'm a little on the fence about the mother of the hunter, who's sort of she's like the priestin or whatever they called them. I forget the name that they used, but she's kind of like a weak sauce Livia from I, Claudius. Do you know what I mean? She's sort of trying to manipulate her son to become the new chieftain, and I don't know. I you know, that part of it I wasn't too keen on, but I enjoyed the episode. I had a good time.
I'm sorry it cut out there, so I didn't actually catch what you said. Most of what you said.
Oh, okay. Well, I said some of the most brilliant stuff that's ever been, you know, aired on a podcast, and so we'll just have to I'll
have to listen to the podcast. I guess is what I'm going to have to do. But I won't make the audience go through, make you repeat all of that. But it is funny. It's like it cut back in right as you were finishing up your point. It was just like, oh, good, I'm on my cue. But but yeah, it's you know, it's like I said, It's not a completely abysmal episode, but it does have its merit in the second half. But it kind of stinks that the worst parts are all early on. And it's funny, actually, when I was getting ready to do this podcast, I realized I didn't remember any of those characters on the planet's names. And I thought, I should look it up. I thought, you know what? I'm not going to, because I don't have any personality insights about any of them. They're just, it's like there's the daughter, and there's the young warrior, and there's the tribal chief. and there's the scheming priestess, and I'm like, that's all. There's nothing more to say about them. That's what they are.
We watch so much stuff on this podcast channel. Honestly, that's what I've just learned to live with the fact that I don't always remember names, and sometimes you just have to refer to characters by the type of character that they were. And oftentimes that's more insightful than using the name. Do you know what I mean? You realize things about the shows and movies when you do that. So I mean, I don't know if there's a whole lot more to talk about with this episode. I did like the world building part of it. I liked that this was like a colony from Rigel's empire, and I liked the prophecy that was baked into it. I liked that. I don't know. I guess they were kind of put there to sort of worship the king. Was that the idea?
I don't know. I mean, I'm a little. There's a lot of cool things in the background, but I don't quite understand. It's like, okay, they were put on there to make a colony, but then they took away all their ability to use machines, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm not quite clear. Like, did they revolt or something, or I don't know. It's. I feel like there's just one piece of the. It's not like it doesn't make sense, but I feel like there's just one piece of the puzzle that's missing there.
No, I would agree. It definitely didn't illuminate that.
It didn't really need to, I guess, but not every single thing needs to be explained. There's enough. There's enough there for the story to work for the purposes of what happens in it.
And so I guess that brings us to the next episode, which is Durka Returns. And
yeah.
I have to admit, I didn't remember who Durka was. And he looks very different. So when they reintroduced him, it took me a little bit to realize. I had, once they did the flashbacks, I understood. I was like, oh, that guy, I remember him. So I don't know. Do you want to describe this episode? Is it the brief synopsis? Not like we don't need to go in depth, but
a brief synopsis. Yeah, this is kind of a twisty episode, but yeah, they come out of Starburst and smash into another spaceship, and well, most of the crew is reluctant to bring anybody aboard. Pilot, with his rigid rule set, is like, nope, well, we have to bring these people on board. We have to help them. It's my fault. So they bring them on board, and Durka is there. Who was to refresh the audience, he was the captain of the Zelbinian in the PK Tech Girl episode that tortured Rigel for all these years, and he's there. Basically, he's been mentally cleansed for the last 100 years, and is there basically by this race called the Nabari. And so there's one representative of the Nabari on there who's also got a prisoner that's another Nabari who they want to keep on the ship until they can get picked up and rescued after their ship crashed. But so I mean, that's kind of the setup for the episode. Of course, Rigel is furious about Durka and wants to kill him.
And so I don't know. I guess my reaction to this episode is I thought it was a great episode. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think it's a much better episode than the previous one. The previous one was fun. I was entertained by it. Like I said, I thought it was a fun filler episode. This was a very nutritious episode of the show.
Yeah,
and it had a lot going on. And together, both of these episodes really helped flesh out Rigel a lot more. But also, there's the whole sort of moral conundrum going on in this episode. I mean, there was some moral stuff going on in the previous episode, but this one, it was a little bit more serious. And just to sort of get to see Durka as this, to experience that was I thought he was a very thrilling villain. So, and I love the way that he's this pacified, reformed person at the start of the episode, and then the bomb goes off and the programming is broken and he resumes his evil ways. Because that's the whole thing you're wondering the whole episode is, will this guy end up being trustworthy or won't he? And you don't really know. And there were episodes a lot like this on Babylon 5 where the programming kind of stuck better, right?
The programming on that tended to work.
and here it obviously malfunctioned in a very serious way. So I enjoyed the episode. I enjoyed Chiana. I thought she was an interesting character. I'm curious if she's going to be a regular on the show, because it seems like they maybe are laying that groundwork, but maybe not. Maybe they just drop her off the next planet for all we know. So I like that. I also like the ambiguity around the Chiana character. I can't remember the name of the guy who was in charge of transporting them. Salas. But we don't know whether she killed Salas or not. We still don't know if... the implication was you're supposed to believe it was Durka, but then by the end of the episode, you're like, well, I don't know. Maybe it was her. And my opinion, just based on what I saw, is that Durka killed him, and that she was... had some kind of affection for him, because she and Salas had a really odd exchange when she was behind the bars that to me indicated she had seduced him in some way before. Or
I don't know. I'm not sure about that. Maybe I'm misreading it, but I had the impression she was trying to seduce him.
But she used the word again. She said, "Do you want to feel again?" Or something.
Oh, did she?
I thought that's what she said. I thought that's what she said.
It is interesting. I would be interested to know what the connection between them is, because it's never... obviously he's the one that's captured her and is bringing her back, but it does seem like he's someone that previously knew her before he went out to get her. So,
well, because she said to him, "That's the thing about me that always intrigues you, isn't it?" Right? Because her rebellious nature. And she could have been lying, but it seems like if it's just the two of them, why would she say something so blatantly untrue? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But no, I like that there's a lot of complicated relationships in this episode, because you've got the Salas Chiana one, you've got Crichton and Chiana, who Crichton's trying to figure out, can he trust her, can he work with her? Then you have briefly you have the scene where Chiana tries to work with Rigel, tries to cut a deal with him when she sneaks into his cell, and ends up, that doesn't work out at all. But then on the other hand too, you've got Durka, and you've got Aaron on that side. Durka is this legendary historical figure to her that she learned about growing up, and so she's just really astounded to meet this figure, and is kind of somewhat worshipful early on in the episode, which of course changes. And Rigel has a very different view of Durka, and that creates some tension between Aaron and Rigel. There's just so much in this episode of the way all the pieces fit together that makes it really interesting.
No, I agree. I quite liked the stuff with Aaron and Durka. I thought that was it was cool to see the trajectory that took over the course of the show. And I like how it kind of pivots around her discovering that he ran away. You know what I mean? I thought that she was totally okay with all the other stuff he was doing, all of his legendary achievements. But once he was a coward, that's when her opinion of him drastically changed. The torture, the crushing of rebellions, that's all fine. But it was the cowardice that really. And also, I have to admit, I kind of agreed with her. I sort of understood where she was coming from on that front. There was something particularly sniveling about this guy who's pretending to be this legendary figure, and really he's just he's obviously just been looking out for himself the whole time.
It's a good setup there, and I like the fact Aaron still has this lingering loyalty to the Peacekeepers and admiration to an extent that it's the fact she's joined up with them, she hasn't completely gone, oh, I'm not a Peacekeeper anymore, blah, blah, blah. It's still sitting there in her head to an extent.
Well, and obviously that's the stuff she was raised on, right? So that's it makes total sense.
Exactly. It would be weird, for her to just suddenly drop it all. So it makes total sense to me.
And the episode had me on the edge of my seat. It was very good at making me afraid of Durka and making me worry for the lives of Rigel and Aaron Sun, and it also did a good job of having that interesting exchange of dialogue between Durka and Rigel. So and sort of Rigel defeats him by basically saying, like, you never succeeded in breaking me. You just made me stronger. That was kind of an interesting way to sort of turn the situation on its head as he's about to get tortured again.
Yeah.
So.
I like Aaron's conversation with Rigel at the end too, where he's like, "Oh, you don't need to thank." He's like, "I wasn't going to thank you. You didn't even know I was in the room. You were just." He just actually kind of admires what he did. It's not. She doesn't think he did it for her, but it's just still like, yeah, that was pretty great.
So I thought this was a really strong episode, and I think, again. I'm a little surprised to learn that the previous episode was so hated, but I can see why it was. Like, I sort of can see the things that people would dislike about it. But
well, we talked about this with IET. The most hated episodes of Farscape are still, they're okay. It's like, it's a good show. It's like the absolute most terrible episodes of it. I think Jeremiah Crichton is probably my least favorite of the. There are 4 episodes in the show that some people will hold up as their most hated episode, and it's my least favorite of the 4, to be honest. And even that, it's like, yeah, it wasn't torture for me to watch it for this podcast.
No, it felt to be like a fun episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Like, that was the sort of episode that it was. I think what I just liked was just sort of like knowing that I was watching a filler episode and not minding that the story wasn't moving forward. That's sort of what that was my thought while I was watching it. I just got a sense that, it just kind of makes the Farscape experience bigger, which isn't necessarily bad. But it's an episode you could easily skip over that episode, I think, and not miss anything, unless there's like a detail in it that becomes relevant, 5 episodes from now or something. But
I think that is actually a skippable episode. So yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine what they would glean from it. I don't know. I mean, I suppose they can take anything and have become important again. But
I guess from character perspective, you did say both these episodes fleshed out Rigel for you. So maybe the Rigel stuff does give you more sense of his personality, but I don't think it's absolutely essential, though.
But also, I feel like that episode, it did suffer from the thing that filler episodes generally suffer from, which is that with Crichton, I feel like all the stuff that happened to him there kind of evaporated. It was all kind of an anomalous blip on the radar, where suddenly he was all kind of wise and had a beard, and Jimmy, his personality was totally different that episode, and I feel like that probably isn't going to linger over the course of the show. It happened, but it's like it's like in all these shows we used to watch as kids, like something momentous happens in the show, and then the next week it's forgotten. Do you know what I mean? It just doesn't. It's not.
Yeah, which is unusual for this show, because this show, while it's not a plot arc show, it's a show where a lot of things do have consequences and personalities do evolve and stuff. But yeah, you're totally right. That episode really. Yeah, Crichton. I mean, one thing, Crichton is even at the center of the episode by the end. It kind of flips into being a Rigel episode anyway by the end. So, yeah, it just doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but just the whole way he carried himself felt kind of off that up. Like, it just didn't seem as Crichton-y to me, and it didn't feel like that carried through to the next episode. So, but again, I don't really mind that. I sort of I remember filler episodes. I don't mind them being that way, but because I feel like it can be just as bad going completely the other direction, where you have to remember everything that ever happens in the show. So
yeah,
having an episode where I don't have to remember all the details, I'm fine with.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did have a kind of it had a vibe that is very different from the rest of the series. I can see why it would stick out to people as different. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's almost like a 70s TV vibe to it. I can't think of a specific example, but it felt like something I would have been watching as a kid back in the 70s.
No, it had like a Gidget thing. Like something was going on there where I know that they were in this village and there was this serious stuff going on, but I still felt like the Brady's on vacation in Hawaii or some kind of surfing thing. You know what I mean? There was something there that just didn't. Maybe because Crichton was so relaxed about the whole situation. I don't know. It just didn't feel. And I was curious where they shot that. Actually, I don't know if you would have any information on that, but.
It's in Australia. It's, somewhere. I don't specifically know where, but it looked Australian to me.
Well, that changed. So anytime it's shot in a place where the rivers might have crocodiles, that completely changes my reaction to the location. Do you know?
No, because they shoot this mainly in New South Wales, which has no crocodiles. So I'm sorry to disappoint
you. Okay.
You.
So wait, they're
Australia is a continent. So,
no, I know. I know Australia's big, but so just for the pleasure of the listeners.
We'll pretend there's crocodiles in there.
Well, no. So. I want to know, so New South Wales. What's the climate there, and what sort of animals are actually in that part of Australia?
Well, there's kangaroos, and there's koalas, and lots and lots of birds. I don't know. I mean, it's not tropical. It's warm, by your Boston standards, it's a very warm place. Okay. But a cold winter's day there's around 50 degrees.
Okay, but when you say no crocodiles, do you mean they're just not there in great numbers, or no? They're
no, they're not. They're not. They're up north. But, because it's the southern hemisphere, so it goes the other way. It's too far south for there to be crocodiles. Okay. It gets cold enough at the winter that they're not going to want to live there. They all live up in the tropical rainforest up north in Queensland mainly.
So if I ever have to relocate to Australia, that is the location I'm going to be going to, I think, because the furthest I can get away from the crocodiles is like when I go to Florida, I'm a nervous wreck about water because I'm not used to things with powerful jaws residing inside the waterways. Do you know what I mean?
You got those lobsters. I don't know, man.
The lobsters are fine. Also, it's easy to avoid the ocean. It's not easy to avoid walking by rivers. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not worried about, like, I don't go into the ocean because I don't want to get eaten by a shark. When I was a kid, they made me take sailing lessons, and when we got to the phase of the sailing lessons where they force you to capsize, I was like, nope, I'm out. I'm not doing it. And I didn't do it.
No, but no, there's there are lots of great white sharks, so you may want to stay out of the ocean in that part.
Oh no, that's never a problem.
But
as a rule, I don't go. I do not go into the ocean.
As far as the animal life goes, on the whole, there's poisonous spiders and stuff. You can be afraid of them.
Okay, that's yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'd be worried about that, but I don't.
Honestly, poisonous spiders mean you just go to the emergency room. Nobody dies of getting bitten by spiders and snakes and stuff. There, it's just, oh man, spider bit me. I better go get some antitoxin.
I mean, I wouldn't look forward to that at all, and I'd probably be the guy that died from the bite. But the thing is, that's a much more dignified death than dying in the jaws of a crocodile. Dying in the jaws of a crocodile, it's like you're prey. Do you know what I mean? Like you're reduced to just like, an antelope, or it's just not how a human should go, in my opinion. I don't like it when humans are consumed by other animals. I think that's the worst way to die. And so, again, I just, nothing against Australia. I just want to avoid the crocodiles if I go there.
New South Wales should be fine for you.
But I don't know. Getting back to the point, which is, I did enjoy that episode, but the reason I was asking about the location really was because at first I was like, this kind of looks like a camping trip to Maine. Do you know what I mean? It just had that sort of look. Also, that crab creature that he was spearing. I was very curious about like what he had been living on that whole time, and because I don't know. I did have a lot of questions about that episode. Also, I think the other thing that was maybe getting a little bit annoying about the episode is we now have had a lot of episodes where Crichton is sort of surrounded by beautiful women that want him in a variety. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't need another and to an extent it didn't go there because it's not like he had a romance with her, right? So it wasn't like he wasn't getting all Kirk and like,
No, he just didn't want anything to do with it really.
But it was sort of a distraction from the Sun stuff that was already going on. So I was kind of like, oh man, do we need like another romance? Like, let's focus on the Sun storyline. But yeah, but on the whole, I thought these were fine episodes. The second one is clearly much stronger. It's like it was a stellar episode. First one's filler, and I enjoyed myself. And I really, just getting back to the second one, I love the way it highlights the ambiguity at the end with him just asking her, where were you when Silas was killed? And she doesn't have an answer. Well, she has like a crazed look on her face, but then she gets like a really strong emotion over her face.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me wonder, like, what exactly was her feeling towards this guy? Because even if she did kill him, which she might have, I feel like there was some kind of warmth that she must have felt towards him or something.
I don't know.
But that emotion on her face was too strong to. I mean, do you know what I mean? Like,
I read it differently actually.
Okay.
There's kind of like this feeling of sorrow over her, but because I don't know, my interpretation was, she's kind of giving this crazy look like, ooh, you don't know if I killed him, and then when he kind of leaves the room, it's like I feel like it does bother her that people think, that or I don't know. I mean,
okay, that's an interesting. She's upset that he would see her that way, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think that could be, but it's ambiguous because it's a mystery. I mean, we don't know if he killed her or if she killed him, which changes it. I mean, there's things you can think about. It's like, because looking at the episode, having seen it repeatedly, I don't know. I'm really curious because, Salas sees her cloak lying in the hallway and her collar, and that's what lures him around the corner to be killed. And then when they find his corpse, like, that collar is next to him and stuff. But was Chiana carrying that stuff with her?
I thought she took it off when she escaped. Didn't we see her take it off?
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, maybe she was carrying it with her and used it as bait, but why would she leave the collar there? And it's like there's a lot of me that think, but then again, on the other hand, it's, so that makes me think it's Durka. But then I think about Durka, and I'm like, well, why would Durka not just admit it? Yeah, I killed Salas. It's like he's not the kind of guy who had anything to hide.
Well, he didn't deny it, though. That's the thing. Like, I felt like maybe he was admitting it when he didn't, maybe he just didn't want to give them the information because it was still valuable for him to let them think that maybe Chiana had done it.
That's a good answer. I like that. Yeah, he's just strategically keeping suspicion between them. Yeah,
because they were very good at establishing this guy is smart. Do you know what I mean? This guy is very strategic, and this guy, I was very much afraid of him as a villain. I believed in his ability to mess with the ship and to kill anybody that he wanted to kill. And so,
he may be a coward, but he's a murderous coward.
Yeah. He's a murderous coward, and he's clearly some kind of genius. So that'll work. And also, Chiana was an interesting kind of genius because she's sort of an expert at hiding and staying out of sight. And I thought that was a really cool. It was cool how that came back into being important by the end of the episode. And I thought it was a nice moment for Crichton when he helps deal with Durka, though they very deliberately leave Durka's end unclear, right? We don't know exactly what happens to Durka. He might get picked up by those people and forced to rehabilitate, or he might just be stranded. But either way, I feel like Durka's not the kind of person that you should just leave as a loose end. Durka's somebody that you kill.
No, that's a very good point. They're just hoping that Abari will take care of him for them, but who knows what's going to happen there. And but going with Chiana, like I said, her sneaking and stuff. You talked early on in the show about the whole D&D classes element of the show. It's like you've already got Rigel as kind of a thief, and it's like she's like a second thief, which is kind of funny. Why you have the scene where she's trying to work with him, and it's like he's got his own thing going. He's not going to work with her, but they've got some overlap in their niche there in the party. But
So so yeah, no, I'm very much looking forward to the coming episodes. I peeked at the next one a little bit. That looks kind of interesting because it seems that Crichton may be returning home to Earth, if I'm not mistaken.
that's yeah, no, it's a very interesting episode. Next
So
one.
that could go seriously wrong or be a really good episode. I have no idea which way it's gonna go.
I'll let you determine that for yourself. But yeah, Human Reaction is the next episode, and then Through the Looking Glass is the episode after that.
Okay.
Yeah, and the continuity really picks up through the rest of the season. I will say that much.
Okay, I do want to say, so one of the titles that jumped out at me is "Bone to be Wild," which is it's a pretty terrible episode title. But I'm not going to judge it by the title, 'cause as you explained, we shouldn't.
Yeah, they did not expect anybody to see these episode titles.
Bone to be Wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyways, I guess we'll head out, and I'm probably going to be back on tomorrow with another episode of Metal Shop, where we're still trying to hash out the definition of metal. We left out the most important ingredient in our discussion in the first part of it, which was the heavy distorted guitars. You kind of sort of an essential ingredient. We left it out. So we're going to be revisiting the topic tomorrow. And on Friday, we're going to do Kung Fu Hustle on Wuxia Weekend.
Yeah.
And that I'm very excited about that. I'm sure everybody else is. That should be a fun one to talk about. And then we got more goodies on the way, including Joel and I are going to have a discussion about Journey of the Doomed, which in my opinion is one of the worst Shaw Brothers films I've ever seen. And so we ran into a situation where I forget what it was. We found movies that we both liked. We found movies that we disagreed on, but we never found a movie that we both hated. And so the aim was to try to find a film that Joel would hate and I would hate. And so I picked Journey of the Doomed. So we'll have that probably in the next couple of weeks as well. And I want to mention this just to listeners in general, because I noticed it today. Bride with White Hair is available on Amazon Prime to watch on streaming. It's not normally available there, so I would recommend people go check that out. They have both Bride with White Hair 1 and Bride with White Hair 2 there, which I'm sure Adam can confirm is a really good wuxia film. So, it's worth checking out. It's available on Prime. And Adam and I will be back on with more episodes of Farscape, and until then, we will talk to you later.